Welcome everyone to today's webinar, the second in our three-part series of material disclosure creation, looking at the programs that provide that opportunity. Today we're going to be looking deep into Hpd version 2.3, which is coming. And to do that, we have two wonderful guests with us today, Wendy Vittori, the Executive Director of the HPDC, and Mary Dickinson, co-director of the Material Performance Lab and associate principal at Perkins & Will. And I'm Terry Swack, the founder and CEO of Sustainable Minds. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you. Glad to be here, Terry.
So just to give everyone a heads up, this is going to be a content-packed webinar. I think everybody is really going to be blown away by some parts of it. And there's a lot to learn. It is being recorded. You will be sent the link to the recording. You can request the deck. I'm gonna ask that you put any and all questions into the questions panel. We'll either answer them during the webinar in the background, or we'll get to them at the end. If there are any questions we don't answer while on the webinar, we will absolutely follow up with you and get those questions answered. So today, I'm gonna start out by telling you, for those of you unfamiliar with Sustainable Minds, a little bit about Sustainable Minds, and in the true spirit of a structured presentation, I'm going to tell you what we're going to say, then we're going to say it, and then we're going to tell you what we said. So I'm going to start out by showing you really what's new as a result of this combination, the collaboration between the HPDC, Perkins & Will, and the Transparency Catalog, and what we're enabling for you. And then we're going to start the story of the material ingredient disclosure program history and what we observed in 2015 when things really got started, and where has the industry gone, each of these technical programs, how have they evolved since then. So we're really excited to have Wendy to talk about the new version 2.3, which has been in development for quite some time and has so much stuff in it. It's amazing. And Mary will speak about the precautionary list that she has worked really hard to develop and deploy. You're going to see how now that has been integrated into the Hpd version 2.3. She's going to talk about how they use HPDs and the precautionary list to make decisions for clients. We're going to get visibility into an actual project, which is always awesome. And then at the end, I'm just going to do a quick demo in the Transparency Catalog so you can see the new functionality that we'll be implementing. So here's a sneak preview of the new functionality that we'll be implementing. We have APIs from all the material ingredient disclosure programs and other partners. And what we really strive to do is to take that partner data through the API and build things that are really useful. So we're doing, 1 + 1 = 3, 4, or 5. And so what you're going to be able to get when version 2.3 is released and manufacturers start creating version 2.3 HPDs is the ability to filter not only by products with HPDs, but products with HPDs where the ingredients are precautionary list free. And you'll be able to do that in a single click. We have a lot of explanatory content, tooltips built in to the interface. We'll show you, how you can get help and support. And we always link back to the source of the information. So when you click there, again, I'll show you live, that's going to take you to the precautionary list website on the Perkins & Will website. So for those of you who are meeting me and Sustainable Minds for the first time, we're a software company. I founded the company in 2007. Our focus and our mission is to operationalize environmental performance and material health into mainstream product development and manufacturing so that manufacturers can design greener and healthier products from the start. Over the years, we have become the only end-to-end product transparency solutions provider in the market today. We are a program operator. We create PCRs and EPDs. We deliver LCA and material ingredient disclosure, carbon accounting services, and our transparency catalog is a cloud platform for making it possible for industry professionals to find those products and materials from manufacturers who are investing in product transparency to improve the environmental performance and material health of their products, so that you can find those products, those materials, and reward those manufacturers for making them. So just a quick reframe of product transparency. Product transparency is really about performance. And now environmental performance and material health are two criteria that are part of the definition of high performance and that people use to make decisions about products. That's why the transparency catalog is hyper-focused on those criteria, because everything else is already in place. These are new criteria that really are stepping up for people to make initial selection decisions and then continue to compare traditional criteria. These investigations, LCAs and material assessments, first and foremost are for manufacturers to understand the environmental impacts and the potential human health impacts of their products. They never have to publish them. They really are investigative tools for them to understand, to make better decisions. The fact that they do publish them is a pretty bold and brave act, quite honestly. And the industry is excited about it, rapidly adopting and using those materials, which is continuing to drive performance improvement from the manufacturer. So we really have a great virtuous cycle going in the industry at this point. It's really quite mature. But that takes us back to 2015, when product transparency really was in its infancy. And these are actual slides from our series, this very same mini-series we did in 2015, where we were at Sustainable Minds, we were trying to understand what are these material ingredient disclosure programs? How do these credits work? So this is actually a screenshot from LEED version 4 back in 2015, where it identified these 4 types, these actually 3 types, only 3 types of material ingredient disclosures that were identified as eligible to contribute to this credit. The Health Product Declaration was in its version 1.0. So we wondered, why are there so many different ways to disclose material ingredients? And why do different professionals ask for different types of disclosures? And how many disclosures should a manufacturer do? And what questions do each of these disclosures answer? And why, if there's these different kinds of ingredient assessments and environmental impact assessments, why isn't that information being provided in the same place as all the other information about the product that people use to make decisions? So we just had so many questions. So we kind of structured a study to help us answer these questions. And so we spent a couple months kind of really digging into these programs and what these disclosures meant and how they got created. And this is kind of the top level results of our findings, which is they were really technical, and it was unclear what the results meant. And it wasn't always easy to determine what's in the product and why. And manufacturers could disclose hazardous ingredients, but with no explanation. So that's pretty risky. They weren't comparable. There's no marketing info, and we couldn't figure out how an architect, builder, or contractor would use them to make a purchase decision. And then, ultimately, what does a manufacturer want to do with the results? What do they want to learn? And then what do they want to be able to do with the results from a marketing communications perspective? So I'm going to go through these slides very quickly. This was just how we, deconstructed what each program was, who's the organization, what kind of report do they generate, what do they have a standard, yes or no, what's the name of the standard, how do they screen their ingredients, what's the name of those lists. There were programs in consideration for LEAD version 4 then that, in time they were all rolled in. So again, we were looking at those. They were on the consideration list at the time. So the biggest thing that we observed to be able to understand what the difference is that some are disclosure programs and some are rating systems. And the HPD at the time was the only disclosure program. The rest were rating systems. And today, Declare, Cradle to Cradle, Level, they're all very popular rating systems. The HPD is still the only technical program that is a straight up disclosure and has evolved so dramatically in terms of what a manufacturer is able to disclose and what people can do with the information. And again, this new release is just, continues to accelerate those advancements. But what you have to know is that the screening process for each of these disclosure types, it's all the same. You build a content inventory, you screen against a list, there's some kind of hazard assessment, and then there's a report. There's only one that has an optimization phase, that's cradle to cradle, and all of them have either included or optional verification. So, structurally, it's all done the same way. So then we broke it down to compare, what actually is in each report. Again, this was from 2015 to understand, again, what people could find in that report. The third program in this webinar series will be with Declare in June. And then later this summer, we will publish an updated version of this study to benchmark where these technical programs are today, how each of them are similar or different, and really how the industry has diverged and really created a rich set of options for understanding the human health impacts of materials and how to continue to improve and optimize products. But for manufacturers, there's a lot of questions that they have to consider when they make decisions about which type of program is going to fit their needs, around, how transparent do they want to be? Do any of these technical program brands really enhance their own brands? How important is third-party verification? And then finally, there's the price, and there's many variables that go into pricing. So it's a lot for manufacturers to really kind of wrap their brains around. And then finally, each of them answers different questions. So what we did back in 2015 was we created a new tool called our Material Health Overview that is a report that takes the results of any of those material ingredient disclosure programs to create a marketing tool that explains what the results mean and what the manufacturer is doing to improve, so that a user could quickly glance and understand and get the answers to these questions, which is just what are people, what they want to get answered, what's the product made of, is there anything hazardous, et cetera, et cetera. And so we did a version for each of the technical programs. These are the templates for those versions. And many manufacturers since then have taken advantage of using these tools to tell their stories. And I'll show you a little bit more about those in the demo. So you can always go back and look at the webinars then. Look, Wendy had a different hairdo. I had different glasses. But it was really time to do this again. So I'm just going to turn it over to Wendy to take it away and tell us what's happening in v2.3.
Hey, thanks. Thanks so much, Terry. It's really exciting to be here and see that recap. 2015 was the year and when I stepped into this role as executive director of the HPDC, and truly so much has happened over this now 7-year period. So I'm pleased to be here today and have an opportunity. I think this is our 3rd time doing this together, Terry. We had an interim update in there in the middle of that, and give you an overview of what's coming with the next version of the Hpd open standard, which is version 2.3. Okay, I'm clicking on my little arrow. There we go. Now I may have clicked one time too many. I don't know. Oh, that's good. Oh, no. Okay. So I think there may be some people on the call that are not as familiar at this point as others with what the Hpd open standard is. I think Terry gave a good overview, but just very simply, this is an open standard. The goal of setting this up, which goes back, I'll give you a timeline in a moment, was to create a method that any rating certification system could use for the reporting of information. And so the main goal of this is to enable a manufacturer to follow one standard to report this and really have this as a baseline report that can be used and fuel all of the different standards that are rating systems that are out there. And so after we set this up, version 1 was really a prototype for this. And then now we've moved to the next version. And I see my arrows have disappeared. So let me just, there we go. And this gives you a little bit of a timeline of how we have progressed. And so you can see the 2015, going back to that point that Terry has just recapped, we were just in the process of releasing the new version 2.0, which was in September of 2015, which took all the learning from the prototype phase with version 1 and put a standard out there that we really thought was becoming ready for prime time. And since that time, in 2015, there were 885 Hpds published. There's over 10 times that number today. We have over 9,800 Hpds that have been published. These represent over 40,000 individual building products. There's been increasing adoption. Every month, we're seeing another 150 to 200 Hpds published. And till now, 700 manufacturers have participated. And again, this is growing at the rate of a couple almost every week coming in and using the tools that have been developed. And so I just want to say a big thank you to everybody on this call that has been part of making this happen. The participation in our organization, we have over 360 companies that are part of the Hpd Collaborative, and we have about 70 of you who participate actively in our governance committees. And again, the goal here is to have a standard that meets the needs of our community for the reporting and use of information about the content inventory and health information associated with building products. And so we have also the Hpd Public Repository, where is an archive of all these published HPDs. It is freely available to anyone out there. And so you can just go on at any time. Anyone can use this resource to find any and all of these published reports. What the Hpd covers is really 3 areas we think of: reporting, disclosure, and transparency. Disclosure, the level of disclosure and the level of transparency that are provided are up to the manufacturer. So think of the Hpd, it's a little bit of a Swiss Army knife of options. The superset of all of them comprehends all the options that are needed with our participating harmonization partners, which include all of those organizations that Terry showed and many more. And so the goal here is to harmonize what is reported in the standard so that it is able to be easily reused in any and all of those ratings and certifications. And so it's a collaborative effort in that everyone contributes to that, and we have a standard that can work for all of those various certification and rating systems. And so the reporting is very simple. If I'm doing material health, what is the information that is asked for, and exactly, precisely, specifically, how should it be reported. That's what the standard provides instructions for. The disclosure is then reported on a format. And so we have a fixed format you see over here on the left, and everybody is pretty familiar with that now. And so you can find easily the information. And again, how much disclosure there is. We understood from the beginning that there was confidential business information. There are lots of reasons why. All of this is able to be controlled by the manufacturer, and then whether to actually publish the result. So a manufacturer can work in private and understand what's going on with their product using the tools that we make available. And then when they're ready, they can publish that and make that transparent to others and the public more generally. So manufacturers create the HPD. We have the HPD Builder tool. We work closely with ToxNot, and we are in the process of talking to some other supply chain management tools. So we have APIs that enable the information to move in an automated fashion if it's originated in those other tools. We don't want people to have to redo things. The whole point here is to not do that, to be able to enter it once. And so what the HPD Builder tool does is all the compliance checking, making sure that the way the data is there is compliant with the standard, and then it enables the checking necessary to do the publishing, does things like the lead pre-check, and now we're going to talk about some new features that we're adding in version 2.3 that will enable it to do more. This plug and play compatibility is really important because everyone on this call is involved with doing this type of work. You know how time consuming it can be. So we really want to reduce the amount of effort, reduce the amount of redundancy. And what an open standard permits is, just as you're seeing illustrated here with an electronic connection, I can plug that in and know that it's going to work. I don't have to worry about it. As long as it's compatible, I don't have to worry about compatibility myself. The tools and the standard is going to take care of that for me. And so that's a really important element of this. And building this ecosystem of participation is also critical. So there is a slide from 2015. I don't have it here, but there are many fewer organizations there on that list, and some are newer. And I think they've been able to come about and start adding more added value in the area of insight, analysis, all kinds of things. But basically, this is an ecosystem all working together to bring this information to ourselves collectively. So just to give this little 15-year perspective, I'm going to go back before 2015 to the inception. And the idea here was really, would an open standard? I come out of the technology industry, and so I have seen the power and worked on, amazing open standards, like, for example, USB. I worked on that during my days at Intel. We never envisioned that most all of us on this call would be using that every day to charge our phones, but we do. And so open standards have the ability to sort of evolve in a way that facilitates the advance of the technology by everyone being able to collaborate and really being able to share the insights from so many people all at the same time. And so, as I've already mentioned, we had version 1. It was really a prototype, proof of concept. That went quite well. And that moved us into this period that started in 2015 of the HPD Open Standard version 2. And version 2.3 is really the end of this phase. The goal, if you think about what we're trying to do here, is make the reporting of the content inventory and the screening simple and accessible. And part of making the reporting is making the doing. If it's easy to report it and use it, then I'm more encouraged to do it. And so we've also seen much greater adoption of just the doing of these things, not just the reporting. They go hand in hand in that virtuous cycle, as Terry mentioned earlier. And as we move now into the next phase, and this is in development, version 3 the first version of this will come out next year. We've actually been working on this concurrent with version 2.3 for the last several years. And this is going to bring the assessment of material health and optimization much more broadly accessible. And I'll touch on a few points here in a moment that show you some of the tools we'll be introducing to facilitate that. So now to turn to version 2.3 specifically, we are just in the final phases of wrapping up the development and testing, and within the next month or two, we will have this out in production. I know many of you have been waiting for a long time, and we just want to make sure that everything that you need is in here as we have it spec'd out in the standard. So there's a lot of improvement in just the quality of data. This is one of the main feedbacks, and we do a lot of looking at what's been people's experience using these reports, how do we make them work better as we go forward. And so just really focusing on that accuracy of the data, what are the sorts of things that we can do. And so we've introduced throughout, both in the standard and also this will be in the builder itself, lots more guidance on how to collect and report the information so that it has a higher level of accuracy. And our goal here is to really enable the self-reported HPDs by manufacturers working on their own with these tools to do more and more of this work. So they can do it for a much broader number of products. And we're seeing, you know, in some cases now manufacturers have their whole product catalog. They have HPDs for all of it. Not everyone is able to do that yet. But the goal here is to make that much more achievable by reducing the cost, by making it easier, automating where we can automate. And the end result of all of that is less resources and higher quality in those HPDs. Terry highlighted at the beginning of this one of the really cool new features of version 2.3, which is we call additional listings. And what this is the ability to have the HPD pre-check for compliance with various kinds of precautionary or restricted substance lists or safer chemicals lists. So we're introducing with version 2.3 this feature, and you see here illustrated how it will show up. It's by chemical. And so you'll see here, in this case, it's illustrating the ILFI red list. And in this particular chemical that was found. And these are the 6 new classes of screening that will be done now for HPDs. And so what the importance of this is that an HPD, once it's reported, the data on it is not changing. And so by doing this screening at the point in time where the HPD is created, that result can be reused for that HPD over and over again, doesn't have to be recalculated by every project team and every group that wants to use it. It can just be used. And so that's the goal. That just epitomizes the whole goal of the HPD, is to have that data available once and be able to be reused many times without re-entry and so on. Another area that we've made a lot of advance with 2.3 is in the special condition policies. So one area has been to improve the data that is available in special conditions. Special conditions come about when the normal reporting of hazards, such as with green screen, which is the baseline in HPDs, doesn't fully capture how that chemical is used in the built environment and may be misleading, in fact. It's important to know that because it may be notating a hazard found in another part of the life cycle, not when that product is in the building. It's also important to know if there are differences and if the in-use qualities of that particular product and the chemical contents, how those are. And this gives insight into that for specific sets of chemicals. And here we're illustrating with a polymer, you know, the difference between having the special condition, which is below here, and what you would see currently. So you're going to see more relevant information to better understand that special condition. And then we are adding new ones. And here you see the full list of the work that we've had. We already have the top 4 in the HPD today. The bottom 3 in the orange color are the ones coming with version 2.3, and the ones in green in the middle are the ones that are still in development. And so I'll give you an example here of the metal alloy special condition. And this, I think, is notable because we've developed this in collaboration with people who actually make metal alloys so that we take advantage of their knowledge of this, build this into the special condition. And then when it's implemented in the builder, now there's going to be sort of a series of questions that will guide the manufacturer into the applicability of this special condition in their product, as opposed to, are you going to use this special condition or not? And so again, that all helps improve the quality of the information. Another set of new features that we're super excited about are in the area of compliance and program pre-check. We've had the lead v4 pre-check for quite a long time now, and many of you use it. And again, it's the sort of thing that can be checked once for an HPD, and then that information can be reused. And this new capability is an extension of that will enable other kinds of programs, rating systems, other kinds of certifications, also private programs that a design firm, such as, for example, Perkins & Will, has. And Perkins & Will is participating with us in the pilot of this. And you see here on the right a prototype of the sort of report that will come out. It's much more detailed. It goes through each one of those criteria. And the bottom line is on this that the ability of a particular program to be communicated to a manufacturer will now be able to go into the HPD builder, find the participating programs, understand what these criteria are, work in the creation of their HPD to see what the compliance is with the requirements or not, make whatever improvements they are, have whatever dialogue that they want to have, and then at the end, if they choose, they will be able to publish the results of that. That again will be the manufacturer's choice as to whether they will do that or not. So we're in the pilot of this, and this is an exciting new feature that's coming. And then I alluded to the version 3, and this is a glimpse of where we're headed with version 3, which will offer one of the biggest changes will be new formats that really focus on the digital use of data. So we live in a digital age, and most of us use these sorts of things on a computer. So what we want to do is make all of those capabilities of your computer, your cloud environment, and everything work with HPDs. And so what this is a prototype that we have in development. This is actually the first page, the summary page of an HPD, redone as a dashboard. And we will actually have fixed dashboard-like formats like this. This is a reasonable prototype in version 3, which will be an alternate official format of the HPD. We'll still have the kind of printout static PDF version as well. And when you use this on the Hpd repository, or when you use this and access this through one of our partners like Sustainable Minds, this will all be interactive. So you'll be able to click on various things here and drill down and get more information. So we'll be releasing the first phase of this in the repository in the second half of this year, and we're super excited with this just going to unlock the ability for assessment, optimization at a whole new level, and we're really just so excited about bringing that out. Before I end, I want to just touch on another area that we've been very actively working on, which is the social equity area. And we've actually formed a technical subgroup, one of our formal governance structures for this. And the purpose of this is to define the sorts of data that are necessary to understand the social equity associated with a building product. And I won't go into detail here now, but the goal of this is just like with every other piece of data we have in HPDs, to create a standard for the reporting of it that could then be reused. So we're working with a number of different groups out there that are working in social equity, ratings and certifications that you know that are our harmonization partners that include social equity data in there to bring a standard that we can use in our community. And again, we'll have those same benefits of being able to, for a manufacturer, report that once and reuse that information throughout their other efforts. So with that, I will end, and thank you, Terry, for the opportunity to share this. I know we went through it pretty quickly. So if you do have questions, please put them in the question panel, and hopefully we'll have some time at the end, and we'd be happy to follow up with any of you.
Thank you, Wendy. You guys are really just kicking butt and taking names over there. And the progress is very impressive. So Mary, I can't wait to hear you take us through your presentation. So I'm just going to stop talking.
Thanks, Terry. And hi, everybody. Mary Dickinson. I'm super excited to join you today. We're super excited about what's happening with Sustainable Mines and with the HPDC and the new version of the HPD. Might want to share. So my hope today is just to share with you a little bit of how we've really found the value with the HPD, how this has really helped us with our goals in terms of looking at substances of concern. And then what are our steps forward just based on these new tool sets? And what would that mean for for a manufacturer? And the importance that your role plays in being able to accomplish that. So without further ado, I'm going to turn off my camera. I just want to say hi real quick and get going. What you see on the screen here is just a screenshot of our firm, Perkins & Will's transparency site, which is home to our precautionary list. And I'll send you or share a link here in just a second. But for those that may not be familiar, the precautionary list is a group of substances that we vet and look at when presenting our materials to clients. So if there are hazards that are present, and we've really vetted that list for what tend to be the most prevalent in the industry and those that have the most impact, that our designers are aware of that. So I'm going to share with you a little bit of a story of us working with Georgia Tech and their construction and facilities department, because they've been great advocates for us. So that will be to come. But first, and then let me first share too what we got into with Georgia Tech, and then I'll go into a little bit of a background that got us started for this project. One of the things in working with them that was really great to understand was, I think they become in similar boats that we do as designers. And that was, you want to be able to try to implement this information at scale. You want to make sure that at the beginning when we're onboarding people, that the bar isn't too high for them to feel like they can get started. And so how do you provide information in a way that's really accessible to folks and very easily applicable? And then move them into ways where they can start to learn and be a part of this conversation too. And build their own skill set. So I want to share a little bit of that process today that we built for them. Preparations prior to Georgia Tech is more about the Perkins & Will story. So here is the link at the top of the page, and you can see a few of the substances here on the lower left. I'm highlighting BPA right there, but again, these are the substances we just continue to move in and find in working with the Healthy Building Network in materials that we were specifying. So we really consolidated that down to some of those groupings that we needed to pay attention to. Everything is based on governmental and scientific findings, so none of it is information that Perkins & Will has produced. We want to make sure that we have everything sourced. And then we also, on the left-hand or the right hand of the page, make sure our designers knew exactly where to find that in terms of the product categories and products that they might be looking at. What we tried to do is ask designers, back in 2016 and earlier, have you done or completed a precautionary list review of your project? And I think that left it pretty open-ended, because that could mean all of their products on a project, and that could, again, seem pretty overwhelming. So similar to Georgia Tech, the conversation needed to be narrowed down so that folks could feel that this was possible. We would get them really excited, share some of the concerns when we run into some of these substances, and folks would say, okay, we really want to be a part of this effort. We're going to put on our gear, we're going to join you. And then we would show them an HPD, and then we would have this immediate fallout of folks that wanted to continue down this path. So we thought, okay, how can we kind of break this down for them, the information, and simplify it? One of the big things that we did do is we shared with teams, as opposed to just saying a precautionary list review of a project, we said, go and base it upon your scope. So if you have an interior scope, go analyze the top 10 products that you have based on volume or surface area. And if you have an additional architectural scope, add the next 10 products that are around your architectural scope. that really helped. And as you could imagine, those products happen over and over again. So they're really learning and being able to build in terms of the database. The other thing that we've done too is we've worked on being able to tag this in our library so folks know where the information is. So what we've asked from our reps that come to Perkins and Will libraries is that they have public information with transparency, either a HPD, a declare label. If they're just starting on this journey, a company disclosure, but we really like it to move into these formats with HPD being our preference. Also want it through a public format. So Sustainable Mines is definitely one of those, Mindful Materials too. And then we share with them too how we're going to tag those, which I think is pretty relevant to the Hpd 2.3, because we're asking for disclosures and telling them that, you know, good is going to be where the 6 classes come into play. And then the next layer is going to be the precautionary list. And then that next layer is where we've gone into even greater green screen benchmark ones, and list translator ones have been removed. And then you can see too, we try to keep track of those in this format, just with on an online database that we have internally. And kind of skipping through here, I think you can see there was a big jump when we started to break down that information from being at 33% to 66% here by 2020, and that has gone up to even 80% in these recent years. So it's definitely was working. So we went to Georgia Tech. They were really excited with being able to have that governmental and scientifically founded information, thought it would be a good reference list for themselves. And the first thing we wanted to do was make sure we were making it easy for anybody in their groups. So basically giving them those answers really early. We wanted to make sure we had industry alignment. So we really thought about a process of vetting materials that went along with what we're seeing in the industry, including how we look at systems through the lead rating system, ILFI, or also what the AIA is doing in terms of the materials pledge and where the industry is going. So we thought, you know, let's put together a good, better, best list of materials that really have a lot of options in terms of how they're performing. And then if they don't have a lot of options, we put together a basis of design. Here you can see how we put together and defined our good, better, best. So at the beginning, it's all about emissions and VOCs, and then how we started to see a level of transparency at 1,000 parts per million being the minimum. And then in terms of going to the next, from good to better, we want to get into that 100 parts per million because then we can really start to see some of these substances of concern, such as the 6 classes. And that kind of being that real big grouping that we really want to be mindful of before that cautionary list starts to expand. And I think the big thing too here that we shared with folks is when looking at the latest version of the HPD, if this very first section doesn't show us that it is a fully disclosed product and we're not at 100 parts per million, then we're not going to know where these substances are, because typically they're pretty in small volume, or they're in a small volume and they're topical. So this was a big portion of how far someone needed to go. And so that really helps when seeing such information, just sticking with that summary page first to find out they're going to dive deeper. And then best was taking it to the next level, finishing off with better. We had the full transparency. We could see if 6 classes were showing up, the precautionary list was showing up, helped us with declare even. And then with best, it's when we're starting to see the home free all the way to a green product that's within the green level, and something that has fully vetted or a cradle to cradle, an EPD, or even some EC3 information. So you can go on to the Yellow Book today. There is a link and you can see the total database. It does show the good, better, best criteria. And then we have a list of the products. So this is making it easy for folks to find their initial information to get started. And you can see here the way we kind of broke it down in the good, better, best on the left-hand side. How far have they gone with transparency, and is that keeping them from potentially getting to a higher level, such as better or best? And then I thought what was really awesome too is what Sustainable Minds has been doing with embodied carbon and the EC3, giving us kind of the percentile performance, so we can see we're going for health and we're going for carbon. And this has been a great way of kind of visualizing the information. So in the end, we're at 425 products that were included in the database. That has doubled over the last year in terms of what we've been able to find and we're going to be adding. I think a big part of that is because of being able to see this information more readily, having quick links, being able to see at a glance, is something at 100 parts per million, or is it at 1,000? And certainly with the 2.3, being able to go down here and use a screener such as the precautionary list is definitely going to help our teams in terms of the amount of time and simplify this process. So I think the big benefit to to anyone who's a manufacturer that is on the screen, this information is being used by a lot of our clients. They're wanting it to, and definitely find that health is a big part of their mission. Also, what they're trying to do with carbon. So, and then what we're trying, many of us in the architectural industry are trying to do around the materials pledge is going to continue to rise. And so, being able to have your information readily for the designers, I think you're going to see a continued uptake of use because you're sharing that information. And then our second tool was, as opposed to just giving them here's the answer, we kind of wanted to teach them too. Any designer can come in and see in the yellow book how to do this. So we kind of gave instructions based on each division of a product. What substances do they need to avoid? How do they get to some of the emissions concerns? And then lastly, embodied carbon, what to look for. The last part of this, the third part, is we're working on a tool and we want to really give somebody all of the notes. How do you go through this in your entire design process and vet products? So for each of the divisions, or in this chapter 1, the 181.13 of the Yellow Book Design Standards, we shared instructions along the design process to complete a life cycle assessment, and then also to complete your material health assessment. And the link's here down at the bottom. And so for rollout, just as kind of finalizing some thoughts here, what Georgia Tech has shared is they certainly have a couple of projects that have come down. COVID put a stall on some of those big capital projects that they were launching, but now, they're really excited about using these tools to apply those to these processes. The big thing that we have been hearing feedback on is from their renovation projects, because they have so many. So this will continue to be an effort. It's something that they are wanting to scale, and that we want to scale with the industry. And I think we're certainly going to be able to go much farther with these new tool sets that were shared with you today. So I want to say thank you.
Well, thank you, Mary. That work was really, really so insightful. The step-by-step process and how granular you're looking at the data to make decisions. And it was just hugely helpful. Yeah, so let's take a quick look at what we're doing in the transparency catalog. Again, because our mission is to operationalize environmental performance and material health into mainstream manufacturing and product development, the catalog is, again, designed to deliver that virtuous cycle effect by making it super easy for you to find those higher performing products and reward manufacturers for making them. So the filters in the transparency catalog are all about environmental performance and material health. And what you're going to find in the catalog is every single building product manufacturer making products for the North American market who have invested in transparency, organized by master format, division, and section. So we knew when we created the catalog that it needed to be a specification tool, because that's how products get into projects. And so it's a lot of complicated stuff. Lots of people, in fact, it was until recently only specifiers who were deeply familiar with master format. Now that specification is becoming more of a team or project architect owned activity, more people are understanding master format, but all of the product transparency terminology, green building rating systems, what each of the technical programs are. It's very layered in complexity. And so what we've been doing all this time is, how can we simplify, just make it simple to deliver those brands, those products with all the different types of transparency information, whether you are working on a project that's going to get certified to a green building rating system, or you're just looking for higher performing products. That's what we continue to focus on. And when we launched the catalog in 2016, there were only 350 brands anywhere in the world making products for the North American market where they had invested in either EPDs or material ingredient disclosures. So today, there's over 1,770 across 27 master format divisions, and now in over 1,250 sections, which pretty much means there almost isn't any kind of building that you're going to design where you would not be able to find higher performing products as attested to through transparency documentation. So I'm going to show you this page. Here's the URL. It's our rating systems page. And what it does is we've mapped the disclosure types to the green building rating systems that have credits for environmental performance and material health. So we're just going to focus on the material ingredient credits today. These are the technical programs. These are actually the links to the technical standards. You can go read them. And then what we do on the page is we then take all of the different technical programs. And so we're looking at health product declaration now. And we literally map the versions and the variations of results to the rating system eligibility. So you will see all this in a glance. And then this is how we build the filters. So when you use the filters in the transparency catalog, you can go back and check to see that the results that you're getting align with what each version of the disclosure and the results have been determined to be eligible to contribute to those different green building rating systems. As I mentioned, we've got tool tips all over the place, so there's a handy reference so you can find out what things mean. Here's the tool tip to describe the health product declaration. So we describe the program, what all the scope parameters are, what the acronyms mean. Here's the results table. And we always, again, we link to the source of the information. So that's going to link to the Hpd technical standards. And so as Mary was pointing out, again, what we've tried to do is make it super simple to find products. These are all products that in a glance, you can see the types of transparency disclosures they have for each of those products. And what we do is bring information about the results of the disclosure right up to the surface so that you don't have to dig in to see what the result is or what they mean, the validity period. So if I were to mouse over that, that's the tooltip that would give me the information about the HPD. And so pretty quickly people learn, okay, that's 100 parts per million, characterized screened index, the highest chemical concern is an LT1, and it's valid through that particular date. So that brings us back to, this is the latest filter that we've added. And we're really going to be encouraging manufacturers to start creating Hpd 2.3s. You'll be able to easily upgrade HPDs you have to 2.3 if you don't want to wait for them to expire. As you can see that with that more data presented through the new version and coming through the API, there's more we can do with those results, again, to help your products get found and for architects and designers and folks in construction to be able to find the types of materials you're looking for very quickly. So let's look at how to use the catalog. You can filter, or you can browse and see all the brands and go to their listings. And there's a lot of different use cases, again, depending upon where you are in the project or what your role is. So let's say you're doing research for in an early stage of a project and you're looking at products in Division 7. You could right away select a particular section that you want to start to look at. So let's say I just want to look at roofing and siding panels. I could even put in a brand name. I could say, geez, I wonder what GAF has in 0740. And in fact, let's see if GAF has anything in 0740. And what you're going to get, instantly is just exactly what you're looking for, so that you can start doing your own kind of side-by-side or comparative research. So no, GAF doesn't have anything in 0740. It was kind of a crapshoot. But let's look at another section. And the point is that you can filter by any of the attributes that are meaningful to you based on the task at hand or what you're trying to accomplish. So let me just walk you through a little bit of this. We've designed the master format selector to do two things. One, for people to be able to find brands they might not have known about, or two, to be able to find solutions to a design or a technical problem that you didn't know existed. And so the way we do that is by when you select 0710, we turn on every single section in 0710, in which case a user might say, all right, great, I'm looking for built-up waterproofing. I might be looking for sheet, that's good. I'm not looking for fluid applied. So you actually have to turn off what you're not looking for in that moment, but then you might say, oh, traffic coatings, that's interesting. I might need that later. I'm going to come back for that. Turn off water repellents. And then you're left with the brands and products. It's still 69 brands, 478 products, so this is a pretty competitive section. If you have a keyword you might want to search on, or you might say, let me see all the brands that have materials in that section. I can click and just filter on those brands. Or you can say, before I even do any of that, what I want to do is I'm working on a lead project, so help me, show me all of the products that have material ingredient disclosures that will contribute to the material option 1 credit. So that still leaves 40 brands or 420 products. You might at that point say, I like HPDs, so show me everybody that's got an HPD. So you can use, any or all of those filters in any order. We've got these two regulations and advocacy filters now, by Clean California, Perkins and Will, precautionary list. And because version 2.3 isn't out yet, for the purpose of this demo, we just created a little dummy. So what you'll be able to do in any master format section, or not, you don't even have to turn on a master format section. You could just say, show me every material that is Perkins and Will precautionary list free. And here's this example. Suzanne, if you're on this webinar, we faked this and we'll put it back. 2.3 is not out yet, but this is what it'll look like. So you're always going to get visual confirmation that when you've selected something, those are the results. And if you can't find the brand or the products you're looking for, you can always go back to the index, which is on the front page, and find all of those brands and go directly to their listing, where you'll be able to learn more about who they are, see all of the materials and products that they have. You'll be able to contact them for any type of sample spec quote or submittal help. There's some direct resources there as well. So we've really tried to create this virtuous cycle of supply and demand, make it easy for you to find those brands and their materials, the products, reward them, and also to make it easier for the brands and the customer-facing people to better deliver service to you. So that brings us to the top of our webinar, and want to thank everybody for attending. Like I said, you will get an email with a link to the recording. You can request the deck. That email will include the link to the Cradle to Cradle webinar. And coming up in June, we'll have the third in our series with the folks from ILFI to look at Declare and living products. We'll hope you'll join us for that as well. I want to thank Wendy and Mary for sharing your work and your knowledge. It's really so interesting. And I hope everybody has a terrific day.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you very much. And thank you both for everything you're doing.
Thank you, Terry. Thank you, everybody out there.
All right. Have a great day.